Well, welcome back to Co-Work Radio. I'm Catherine Raymock along with Jane Walker-Wood, and we are here, as we are every week, one of our favorite parts of the show with UCSB professor, prolific business author, John Greathouse. By the way, you can email AskJohn at coworkradio.com with your business questions. Go to coworkradio.com and make sure that you are listening each week because it could be your question. John, how you doing?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm good. We've got an interesting question from Sam, who read your article on johngreathouse.com about poker legend Annie Duke's new book, Thinking in Bets. And he says, how do I know if I'm being duped?
Duped. I like that. Gosh, maybe I'm being duped and I don't even know it. It's interesting. Annie is a very interesting character in the sense that she started poker really more as a way to make money. And not that she didn't have a love for poker, but she didn't come to this as, maybe a lot of people do. She was a behavioral psychologist, getting her master's degree. Her brother had been pretty successful already, fairly high-profile poker player. And he just said, you're smart, you should be able to do this. So she started just at a local casino and ended up becoming a world champion.
Yeah, there's a lot of smart people who lose a lot of money playing poker.
Exactly. But she's so smart that she's gone on and taken that learning and brought it back into layman's territory. So she has a book coming out early March. I'm going to have her at UCSB, and this is open to anyone on on March 6th. At UCSB at Embarcadero Hall, and anyone's welcome. It starts at 5:30. Hopefully, we'll have plenty of room. So I would highly recommend her book, Thinking in Bets, and it's out soon. And I would highly recommend coming. So let me talk a little bit about getting duped. Really, her book is about making smarter decisions. I have an early copy that I'm reading, and I'll write a review about it, and obviously I'll use it when I interview Annie. So I'm fortunate to be able to already kind of get an insight into the book. She's talking about making smarter decisions when you don't have all the facts, and that's exactly what you're doing in poker. When you're sitting at the table, you never have all the facts because there's some cards that are turned down. You don't know what those cards are. But if you're decent at the game, you have a pretty good idea what the percentages are. So one thing she talks about that I think is just brilliant, everyone, if they only get one thing out of the book, it's don't let outcome or hindsight bias drive your future decisions. So what that means is just because the result ended a certain way doesn't mean you made a bad decision. She opens the book with a wonderful example. It's Pete Carroll in the 2015 Super Bowl. There's 26 seconds left. They're on the 1-yard line. It's only second down, so they still have three plays to run. And he calls a pass. It was intercepted. They lost the game. And categorically, every sports writer in America said that was the worst decision he ever could have made. And yet Annie breaks it down and she says, no, it was actually a very good decision. And she says the number of times a pass is intercepted in that scenario was very low. Even if it had been incomplete, he would have had 2 other plays to run it in. And so if that play had worked, if they would have scored on that, everyone would have said that was brilliant. Oh my, nobody saw it coming. How did he do that? What a brilliant coach. So don't let the quality of your decision be impacted by the outcome. Here's her message. You can only control the quality of your decision. You can't control outcomes.
That's reading your article is that she interviews candidates
right.
for corporations, and she asks them questions that they're not expecting in order to set them off guard, and then reports back to the employers. And that's what I was referring to as, you're being duped.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So sorry about that. I'm so hyped.
I don't
I'm
like that
shirt
you have on today there,
I'm hyped
John.
by her book.
That would be an example. You're not expecting
sidetracked.
somebody to say that, and then it makes them all uncomfortable.
I think what she's trying to do there, and I don't want to speak too much for her, but I did hear her speak on the topic, and I did write the Forbes article. What I got out of that was she's very good at reading human behavior. I mean, obviously, that's a big part of poker. Although she does say that tells are way overblown. Like, the average person thinks that tells are the most important part of poker. She's like, come on, professionals don't really have tells. But people have patterns.
They do in James Bond movies.
They do in all the movies. But people do have patterns of behavior. And so what she's trying to do in interviewing these super high-level executives where it really matters whether you hire the right person or not, she's just trying to get them out of their comfort zone, because when somebody who's that senior is interviewing, they're very good. I mean, they're pretty much not.
So they come in with the spiel. So what would be an example of something she might say
to
get me out of my comfort zone when I arrive?
She would sit down and say, "Why are you late?" And the person's
even
not
though
late.
Even though you're on time.
The person's not late. They know they're not late.
Wow.
And so you just really want to see. It's not.
She wants to see if they start panicking.
Or do they get defensive? I'm not late. What are you talking about?
You know, I was thinking about the analogy between the poker game. I came from a huge poker family, so I learned to play when I was in grade school. But the poker game, and then also business, because what it sounds at first, I thought maybe there'd be no mathematical part of this, but obviously she's maybe not counting cards, but she's at least taking that into factor.
For sure.
But then she's got the psychological part of it too. Both of those are really equally important in business, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, they are, and I think she has quite a flourishing career speaking to companies and helping them. You know, she's not going to come in and give them the answers, but she'll help them with their decision-making process. Because I think a lot of times we do get caught up in maybe what happened before or the outcome that came out before, and we need to divorce ourselves from that. You might have still made the right decision. It just didn't work out.
Do some people get so stuck with their new business that something failed and they think they made the wrong decision that they just can't go forward and try anything else?
Including the person that's talking to you right now.
Oh.
So what I say is we're all victims of our success. You know, if something really worked well for you, you tend to want to replicate that scenario again. And this is, I'm speaking as an investor. And we're also victims of our failure. So I did a medical robotics company, loved it, had a great run, we had a very successful outcome. But I would never do another medical company again because it was an arduous process. It was just getting the FDA clearance. Is that the right attitude for me to have? Maybe not, but it's just I'm human, and I'm sort of subject to the events that have unfolded before me.
I've had a lot of partners over the years and in various dealings that you've had, multiple sometimes. Is it important to, because I was thinking about Annie and how she sort of has those both sides of the brain that many people don't, is it important to pick partners that aren't like you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I wrote an article that's did quite well over the years called, it's about the tribe, and I talk about some of the basic elements of a good startup team, and that's really the takeaway is you want people that have complementary skills. I think as young people, students often struggle with that because they don't even know their own strengths and weaknesses. They're just not self-aware enough or honest enough with themselves, and I think that's the first step. Be self-aware, know what you're really good at, know what you're not good at, and then proactively seek people that fit in those the areas where you're, and you have to be secure enough to say, you know, I'm not Jane, I'm not very good at this, and you are. Let's work together.
Well, think of Steve Jobs and the Woz.
Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't be more different.
There's classic examples throughout history. Very few sole proprietor entrepreneurs make it on their own. It's almost always a collaboration of like-minded people that have different skills.
Remind us again when Annie's going to be speaking and where.
Yep. March 6th, she'll be at Embarcadero Hall. It starts at 5:30. It's open to the public. We only have about 250 seats. We have had instances of people, it's sort of standing room only, but I'd love to see everybody there.
Co-work Radio here on KZSB 1290 AM. John, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Thank you,
John.
We'll be back right after this.